This is Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. It's a beginner's RPG. A lot of people don't like this one because they either think it's just not a good game or they find it offensive. Sometimes both. See, this came out at a time where role-playing games had exploded in Japan, but hadn't quite hit the height of popularity here in the United States. As a result, Squaresoft assumed that it was because we're too dumb to understand the mechanics. Although this isn't true, we got this one instead of Final Fantasy V. In fact, this is one of the first Final Fantasy games that European audiences ever got.
But forget about that for a minute. Is this game really that bad? I enjoyed it as a kid, but then I feel I've always been more forgiving when it comes to a lot of things, and I've been able to see good in things other people often disregard as crap. Not always, but you know.
I haven't played this game in years, so I'm not sure if I'm remembering it being better than it is, or if my childhood opinions actually hold up. Let's take a look.
Everything starts on this mountain where a strange old guy tells you about the Pazoozas Tower and how it's important and stuff. Blah blah blah, 4 evil beings took the keys to the tower, draining the power from the 4 crystals, yada yada yada, whatever. Standard Final Fantasy type story. And who are you? You're this guy! Some random dude with no personality and no backstory to speak of other than, my village is gone! So yeah, off to a strong start. Immediately you fight a boss, and he dies really easily. Oh, you see this nonsense here? Well, Square thought numbers would be too hard for you to understand, so they give you these bars that indicate your health. You can turn this off in the options, and I recommend you do so. But hey, do whatever you want. I don't care. So being the chosen one you are, apparently, you head out to the level forest where, once again, you meet the old man. He tells you the first thing you need to do is save the Crystal of Earth. You can't really do anything in the forest until you go to the nearby town and seek help from somebody named Kaylee. The town near the forest is called Foresta.
Forest is a good name for a town near a forest, right? We'll get used to it, because that sets the standard for the inventive kind of names used in this game.
So you find Kaylee, and she agrees to help you through the forest with her axe if you can take care of the monsters for her. Back to the forest, and man, I'm not really sure why Kaylee thought she needed your help, because she is stronger than you. In fact, you'll see this as a theme throughout the game. Every party member you obtain is inherently better than you. You can grind for levels, sure, but you'll likely never be as strong as them. Some hero of legend, huh? Anyway, despite being stronger than you, Kaylee succumbs to poison from this minotaur in the forest. She gives you her axe so you can continue your journey, but you'll need to go alone to the sand shrine to get the elixir to heal her. Despite heal potions being great for curing poison literally any other time in the game, they don't do anything here. How's that for plot convenience? One brief note on items. All the basic item containers reset upon leaving. If you find one with something in it that you want to stock up on, you just leave the area, come back in, and it'll respawn. It's easy to get lots of cure and heal potions this way, and having a surplus will likely come in handy later. After reaching the Sand Temple, you come to find out that the elixir was already taken by this guy, Tristram the Thief. He's headed for the Bone Dungeon in pursuit of a special treasure, and agrees to give you the elixir if you help him out. So off you go on an adventure with a criminal!
Congratulations, you're now an accessory.
Let's talk about the world map for a second. As someone who has probably played a role-playing game or two at some point, I'm sure you've come to expect a few things, like open movement and random battles. Here you have neither of those things. All the locations you travel to are on a set linear path as you move around from point to point, and the only battles to speak of are these predefined battlefields. Each one is loaded up with 10 encounters, and after defeating the last one, you get either an item, some money, or extra experience. A lot of times you'll feel like you waste your time fighting through all the battles only to be presented with a handful of change you really don't need. Other times it could be an important item, some armor, or a spell. There's no way of knowing which ones hold what, unless you've played through the game before and have them all memorized. This leads to a lot of wasted time.
Now I want you to remember this concept. Wasted time.
When you get to the Bone Dungeon, you're met with a lot of moving sands. It's best to avoid these when possible so you don't get pushed around in the wrong direction. Tristram gives you some bombs that you can use to destroy certain areas. Seriously, dude, you're just handing these out? I'd like to point out that at some point in the Bone Dungeon, Tristram got hit with blindness, and well, I just got tired of healing him, so he's blind in my playthrough. This is canon now. Here's where it becomes apparent that all your weapons have secondary attributes that you can use while in dungeons. You already saw that the axe can chop down trees, the bombs can blow holes in walls, the sword can be used for activating switches, and the claw can be used to climb walls and get across gaps. Each weapon is good against certain enemy types as well, like the axe dealing extra damage against tree-type enemies. It's not much, but it's about as deep as the strategy gets in battles. I always use all my weapon types on new enemies to see if they're weak against any of them, which a lot of times they're not weak to anything. You get through to the boss, Flamerous Rex, who's not much of a challenge. And hey, a crystal! Yeah, that's right, only an hour in and we've already got the first crystal. Tristram grabs the treasure he came for, chucks the elixir at you, and pieces out. Back in Foresta, everything's lush and green again. You heal Kaylee and she tells you to find some guy named Spencer in Aquaria, past the Focus Tower. There aren't any enemies in the Focus Tower, but there's a chest that contains the fire spell. You run into the old man again, who tells you that you need to find Phoebe in Aquaria, and that the adventurer, Captain Mac, will be crucial in your quest. Alright, cool. Good info, I guess. On the other side of the Focus Tower is a frigid tundra. Phoebe is chilling in a cave, feeling sorry for herself, but mentions Spencer is her grandpa. She joins you and you head to Aquaria, which, similar to the rest of the area, is covered in a sheet of ice. The crystal of water in the ice pyramid is being drained of its power and caused the water to freeze over. First you have to go to the Wintry Cave and get the Libra Crest, which allows you to use this tile as a teleport sort of deal. This is also where Phoebe will give you the Cat Claw, which lets you climb certain walls like I mentioned earlier. Beat the squid boss and get the crest. After that you'll do some platform puzzles on your way to the pyramid. The ice pyramid is your first taste of how mazy some of the dungeons in this game are. It takes a little while to get through here as there's lots of different ways to go. Sometimes you think you're going the right way and you'll end up looping around to where you've already been. At least you'll probably gain a few levels fighting against mages and freezer crabs?
Give me your frozen peas.
Ah! Typically, as you've seen, the enemies are all stationary, and you can choose to fight or not to fight to some degree. But here, the enemies are invisible. So, you know, it's like a real RPG now. Melt this golem at the end and you'll save the Crystal of Water. Yay! I gotta say, it's really satisfying watching the golem melt as the battle progresses. Oh right, yes, enemies. Each enemy has multiple sprites, and their appearance will change as you do more damage to them. This is, well, one of the cooler things about the game. All enemies and bosses alike display this behavior, and some of the positions are really funny. I like this centaur guy. Nay, I shall not let you pass. For the honor of my family, I will— Whoa, hey, wait a minute, man! Despite these sprites being neat, in most cases they aren't particularly detailed, and some of them don't look very good at all. This is the case with the graphics in general. Everything looks decent, and generally the game uses a lot of bright colors, but otherwise there's not much to say about the visual presentation. It definitely comes across as oversimplified when stacked up against other similar titles. Now that Aquaria is adequately thawed, you can enter the tunnel under Spencer's house. Here, Spencer tells you that Captain Mac spent years studying the prophecy of the Focus Tower and the Chosen One, and how his ship was stranded when the lake dried up. Apparently, if you dig from Spencer's tunnel, you can reach the ship, but it'll take a little while. Time for another trip through the Focus Tower, this time onto the town of Fireburg, where there's been some strange earthquakes lately. The old guy tells you to seek out someone named Reuben. When you find him, he states his dad got trapped behind a boulder and only the mega grenades can help him. The guy who has the mega grenades has locked himself in his house. So you find Tristram and he gives you this special key that unlocks any door. Time for a good old-fashioned home invasion. So you shake down the dude with the mega grenades and you go to rescue Reuben's dad from the mine. This is another mazy area and I got lost quite a bit. When you find him, that boulder he's trapped behind is literally just sitting there blocking nothing. Either way, you crush some houses and stuff in the process, and then you get some info saying that the fire crystal is in the volcano, which I think is a pretty obvious place to put a fire crystal. You and Reuben make your way to the volcano and kill a dual-head Hydra. Roar! I died a bunch here, but luckily the game lets you start the battle over when you die. Yeah, it's kinda cheap, but whatever. Beat the boss and free the fire crystal. Travel back through the Focus Tower and now you're headed on to Windia. Gee, I wonder if the Crystal of Wind is nearby. Getting there won't be a direct route though. There's a few areas you need to travel through to get there. First you'll cross this bridge where Reuben gets his ass kicked and just falls off, right before Tristram randomly shows up and joins you. And this time, he can see! It's a miracle! Afterwards you'll have to travel through the Alive Forest. There's this big old tree in the way, but he won't talk to you. Back to get Kaylee, since, you know, she likes trees and junk. Assuming she's made her way to Aquaria, you head back there. Seems like the tunneling is slow moving, and you'll need to seek out Otto, the inventor in Windia, for assistance. Tristram gets distracted with the thought of possible riches and runs off with Spencer to go treasure hunting. They're total bros now. At least Tristram gives you the upgraded claw weapon before he leaves. You wake Kaylee up, who's just been snoozing away. Psh, lazy! And head back to Mr. Treeface. Monsters have infested the tree, so in order to get him to carry you through the rest of the forest, you have to clean them out. This area isn't too bad, lots of claw shotting from platform to platform. Afterwards, as promised, Tree Man McWoodface carries you across to Windia. Go on, kid. Okay. Now that you're in Windia, Otto says it's just too windy to get to the tower to the north, where his daughter went. You need to climb the nearby Mount Gale to stop the wind. You fight a headless horseman on a headless horse, it's a new one on me, and the wind stops enough for Otto to make his Rainbow Road. With the road up, it's time to take on Pazoozas Tower. Pazuzu will travel back and forth between floors in the tower unless you use these switches to lock the elevators. The fight itself isn't too bad, you have to choose when to attack since he has a counter stance he takes, but it's not too involved. After he goes down, you've freed the Crystal of Air. Woo! Back in Windia, Ruben shows up and he found a stairway to the top of the Focus Tower. Otto suggests refilling the lake to save Captain Mac. Overcharge the Rainbow Bridge-O-Maticizer and you get a straight shot to Spencer's place. Drop a mega grenade in there and boom! The upper water starts draining into the lake, allowing access to Mac's ship. There's some monsters in the ship, but if you go the correct way, there's not really much you actually have to fight. Now that you've finally found Captain Mac, he fills you in on a prophecy about a Dark King who sits atop the Focus Tower. He's the one behind the 4 evil beings that were draining the crystals, and only the Chosen One, you, can defeat him and bring order back to the world. Alright, well, sure, let's go to the Focus Tower one more time.
Before taking on the final dungeon, I know this has been a pretty negative review overall, and you may be wondering to yourself, does this game have any redeeming qualities? Yeah, it does. It's got one good thing about it. The music!
The music in Final Fantasy Mystic Quest is very different than what you'd find in most other Final Fantasies. Instead of themes that fit a medieval kind of backdrop like you'd normally expect, Mystic Quest brings the rock. Nah, not like that, but there's some seriously awesome tunes here that will really stick with you. The various battle themes are especially great. Okay, so you and Phoebe head back to the top of Focus Tower, or rather Doom Castle as it's now called, and I gotta say, this last dungeon blows. It really showcases some of the game's bigger issues. First of all, it's split into 4 segments, each one resembling the dungeon you originally accessed the crystal in. These areas are shorter than the originals, which thank goodness for that. In the 4 areas, you'll have to fight a dumbed-down version of each of the 4 main bosses. To add to it all and to really make sure your victory is earned, almost all of the enemies here have petrify and instant kill spells. Remember how you can restart battles? You'll do this here a ton. After going through the 4 areas, you'll find a statue of yourself. The crystals entrust you with their power, which literally does nothing. There's also some chests where you can get some extra items if you need them. Finally, you come face to face with the Dark King, who apparently has no other name? I don't know. He laughs and tells you how he made up all that prophecy nonsense about destroying the world and how only the Chosen One can defeat him and whatnot. Well, based on the piss-poor storytelling in this game, that's kind of par for the course, right? So, does this mean that he had no intention of destroying the world?
Oh my god, you play the villain in this game.
Well, we made it this far, so we're still gonna fight him. And he's way easier than any final boss has any reasonable right to be. For starters, he's weak against Cure. Yeah, it does more damage to him than any other attack. Like everything else, the Dark King has his own set of sprites he cycles through as you do more damage. He's a not-so-jolly green giant, and then he sprouts a bunch of extra arms and fanglies, and then he turns into a spider. Sure, why not? You kill him and the old man shows up.
The old man was the Crystal of Light the whole time.
Everyone kind of goes back to their normal humdrum lives. Except for you, that is. You end up running off with Tristram and Captain Mac's ship for more adventures. And that's that.
So, is this game as good as I remembered? Haven't you been paying attention? This game f***ing sucks!
Your character is stupid and devoid of any personality, and he's by far the weakest Chosen One type of character in any RPG that I've ever played. Everyone is better than you. The map is dumb, the dungeons are way too mazy and make the game seem longer, the battles are a complete crapshoot on whether you do well or get completely decimated. Yeah, sure, you can start them over again and again, but that's just the programmers throwing in a quick solution rather than actually trying to balance their game. The worst part is that the game is just boring. It's relatively short, but it feels like such a chore to get through. Yes, the music is great, but that just barely softens the blow of a heavily flawed gameplay experience.
Part of me wishes I hadn't played through this one again and left my childhood opinions intact. That being said, it's not the worst game ever, but it's not very enjoyable, and I doubt I'll be playing through it again anytime soon. With that, thanks so much for watching, guys. I'm D-Pad Danny. See you next time.
Gimme them peas!